tax on tips, no tax on overtime, looking out for our seniors. And these things, I think, are past overdue. And hopefully the big, beautiful bill and everything to come in the next couple of months will have that front forward for the world to see, and it will lead to great economic benefit. I'm sure of that. And here to join me to discuss from the National Taxpayer Union, our friend Pete Sepp. Pete, what do you make of the latest moves happening right now in D.C., Capitol Hill, as we move towards these campaign promises being fulfilled? What do you see happening, and how do you think it's going?
I think they're looking better all the time. When you examine the Senate's bill, for example, they're doing several improvements on the House bill that are going to increase the prospects for economic growth going forward. And as we know, this is a goal of the Trump administration. Secretary Bessent and the president have said they want to get our economic growth north of 3% annually. Currently, the projection is 1.8. So we've got a long way to go. Good tax policy can help get us there. The Senate bill would make permanent three vital business provisions. That's full and immediate expensing of equipment, full and immediate expensing of research and development, and making permanent a mechanism for writing off heavy debt financing for new structures. Again, those are the kinds of things we need to get the economy humming along. That's going to benefit workers. That's going to benefit middle-class investors, retirees, all of whom have a lot of investments in stocks and what have you. That's going to help keep this economy humming along. Yeah. We need to also keep focused on the items you were talking about, too. The tax on tips promise, the tax on overtime promise. The Senate's bill is moving in a good direction there. They're making sure that there are good guardrails, like a limit of $25,000 worth of overtime and tips that you can take a deduction for. We've come up with an even simpler plan. Simply check a box on your tax return. If you're in a customarily tipped profession, or if you're what's called a non-exempt employee, in other words, somebody who qualifies for overtime, you get a deduction. It could be set at any amount Congress wants. Very simple, very easy. I think those are the kinds of ideas the American people are looking for here as we keep the tax burdens reasonable and work on cutting federal spending for real.
100%, Pete. And let me ask you this. Obviously, there's been some slowdowns with the big, beautiful bill. President Trump wants it by July 4th. We're talking about the bill. We just have a couple seconds here. Do you see it getting done? And why would any Republican members oppose? Because obviously some are inevitably opposed. They're going back and forth on some of these provisions. Why would any Republican be opposed to any of these things? And how do you see it shaking out from now to the 4th of July when Trump wants that bill on his desk? About 30 seconds.
There are a few Republicans who believe that there's too much spending restraint in the bill. They're worried about so-called cuts to social programs. There's no such thing in either the House or Senate version, only slowdowns in federal spending. If anything, they need to get more aggressive with getting spending under control. I hope the Senate holds its ground and its position prevails there, and we keep working on controlling federal expenditures. That is key alongside good tax relief.
I do agree that it is key. And let me ask you this, one more question before we go, related to the tariffs. Obviously, you know, we're tariffing foreign countries, and that's been a big thing. Do you have anything to add on that? Because President Trump has not let go with tariffs. How do you see that shaping out in the economic growth? You mentioned that earlier, the economic growth of the country in the next couple of really years. I mean, very pivotal. Do you see the tariffs contributing to economic growth, or do you think it's going to be what the leftists are saying that will harm our economy? How do you see that in the next year to 3 years?
It all depends on how high the tariffs are, how retaliatory they are from other countries, and whether we're doing this with the goal of getting to zero tariffs and trade barriers with other countries. If we're doing that, President Trump's original vision, zero trade barriers, then we're going to be in a good place with the economy. If they continue and we get a lot of retaliation, we could see inflationary pressures, and we've got to watch out for that.
we gotta leave it there. But zero base tariffs, 100% right. All right, thank you very much for joining us, Pete. We appreciate it, and I want to.